Welcome to the John Cady podcast. I'm John Cady, U.S. Navy retired and former minister. I'm taking a detour from my original plan of going down the rabbit hole of artists and what might have beens or what if scenarios. And I'm going back to a topic that I tend to discuss a good bit on these podcasts, and that is church issues, spiritual abuse, and also the quest of finding fellowship in a house of worship where a man can feel safe and not worry about shenanigans that drove me away from previous ministries and organizations. When visiting a local church, there are questions that I have. Some churches are traditional in the way they're set up. They're set up where you have separate classrooms and offices. Some, everything's out in the open, with the exception of maybe the pastor's office and maybe the pantry where they keep food for the fellowship hall. Everything else, there's no walls. Your Sunday school's out in the open, the nursery's out in the open, the teaching area is out in the open, which is fine too. That's not an issue. I don't have a problem with that. But one of the things that I look at when I look at seeking a house of worship to have fellowship and to enjoy being with other believers and in partaking of the Bible and drawing closer to God, I also want to know the backstory of that organization, of that ministry, and most importantly, the people who are in leadership. I will preface by saying mystery men are cool in the comic books. Mystery men are fun in movies. In fact, there was a movie in the late 1990s called Mystery Men. When it comes to meeting up with people in a church, especially when visiting one for the first time, and given my past experiences, I want to know what I'm getting myself into. It's a cautionary mechanism for my own protection, my own safety, and if I decide to bring any of my family or friends over, I want them to be safe as well. So when I go back home after visiting a local church, some of them are pretty open. You go on their website, you do some background history on their ministers, and you can find that it's an open book. They went to this Bible college, or they came up from a totally different background before they came to know Christ, and then they pursued ministry. You look at see what kind of congregations they were in, what positions they held, if any, if they did any evangelistic or missionary work. Some will even address that they had controversies in some of these other churches. So the question would be asked, did that person leave on good terms, or was there a controversy involved? Was there an issue involved? One can do a search on me and you'll find that. I'm an open book on that. I can tell you anything that you need to know about what churches I was involved in, what controversies that I had to deal with, how I left, and I'll even share my moral failings if need be. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Then there are those congregations and ministries where you look and it's like, okay, it talks about where such and such pastor founded the church and how it started, but it doesn't go any further in depth. Where did this person come from? What church did he start out in? What kind of lifestyle did he live before he came to know God? Were there issues in the other congregations or ministries where he labored before he founded this particular church? And if I look and find that there is no background information, that there is no history, that to me is a cause for concern. It's a cause for concern because it makes me wonder, what's the true story? I'm not a keyboard warrior by any stretch of the imagination. If I encounter this, and if I really want to continue visiting and having fellowship, at some point I'm going to need to have a sit down with the pastor or pastors of any church I visit and have a talk with them. I want to know what's going on. I want to know things like, well, where did you start out? Did you earn your credentials within a church, or did you go to a seminary or a Bible college? What congregations did you labor in? Did you hold a position in that church? Were there some problems within that ministry? Hey, I can vouch for that. I can tell you that because I've been there. I had to leave ministries because of disagreements or finding out that there were shenanigans going on that shouldn't have been. But when I encounter somebody who is a mystery person with whom I am unable to find any kind of backstory, origin, if you will, it makes me wonder. Even if the person comes across as being sincere and honest, I want to know what I'm getting myself into. Does this person operate on the level, or is there something in the shadows that I need to be aware of? The last thing I want at this point in my life is to be blindsided and find myself again confronting an individual in church leadership who broadcasts one facet of his persona to the congregation, but yet there's something else going on. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I am just merely voicing concerns out here because I've been burned before. I don't want to get burned again. Is that fair enough? I think it is. As I continue my quest looking for a house of worship to have fellowship and to break bread with other believers, I am not afraid to challenge the pastor on certain topics. I'm not afraid to ask questions. Didn't the Bereans do the same? The Bereans didn't take everything that was fed from the pulpit for granted. They went back and they studied. They asked questions. They debated. They challenged. If the Bereans did this, that's what I believe that God expects of his people today. We need to challenge what is said. The Bible warns us also not to believe every spirit, but to what? To try the spirits to see whether they be of God, because many evil spirits are gone out into the world. Many false prophets are gone out into the world. If the pastor of any congregation comes across as a mystery person, that's something to take pause about, because it makes me wonder, am I dealing with somebody who's on the level, or is this a false teacher? Is this a false prophet? I don't know. In this day and age where you can find out background information on just about anybody, if a person is that good at keeping his history a secret, it really has me wondering, because I'm looking out for myself, for my soul, for the souls of the people I've come in contact with, because I don't want to find myself in that situation ever again like I did in previous churches and ministries. This is John Cady. Thank you for putting up with me. If you like the content, please hit like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.